Here are Grandma's 31 oddly useful food hacks you'll wish you knew sooner. Add mayonnaise to scrambled eggs. For extra fluffy and creamy scrambled eggs, try adding a spoonful of mayonnaise before cooking. The fat in the mayo helps create a smoother texture and richer flavor. It also helps prevent the eggs from overcooking and drying out. Simply whisk the mayonnaise into the eggs until well combined. Then cook as usual. The result is light, velvety, scrambled eggs that are packed with flavor, just like Grandma used to make. This simple trick elevates your everyday eggs to something special. Grease pans with sugar. Here's a sweet trick you'll wish you knew sooner. Grease your pans with sugar for baked goods. When you grease a pan with butter or oil, and then sprinkle it with sugar instead of flour. The sugar caramelizes as the dish bakes, creating a sweet, crunchy crust. This hack is perfect for cakes, cookies, or any dessert where you want an extra layer of flavor and texture. Grandma swore by this method for adding a delicious twist to her baked treats. Use aquafaba for egg whites. Aquafaba, the liquid from canned chickpeas, is a surprising yet effective substitute for egg whites in baking and cooking. It whips up just like egg whites, making it perfect for meringues, mousses, or even as a binder in recipes. Simply drain the liquid from a can of chickpeas and whip it until it forms stiff peaks. Use it in the same quantity as you would egg whites. Add soy sauce to chocolate. For a flavor boost you didn't see coming, try adding a dash of soy sauce to your chocolate desserts. The umami in soy sauce enhances the chocolate's depth and richness, creating a more complex flavor profile. This hack works particularly well in brownies, hot chocolate, or even chocolate frosting. Just a small amount, start with half a teaspoon, can transform your chocolate dishes into something truly special. It's an unexpected twist that takes your desserts from good to unforgettable. Rub oil and wash hands after cutting jalapenos. After handling jalapenos, rub a bit of cooking oil on your hands before washing them to prevent the burning sensation that jalapeno oils can cause. The oil helps dissolve the capsaicin, the compound that makes peppers hot, making it easier to wash away. Once you've rubbed the oil in, wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water. This simple step can save you from the unpleasant burning feeling that jalapenos can leave behind. Grate cold butter into flour. Did you know that adding grated cold butter into your dry ingredients results in more flakier pastries and biscuits? This method ensures the butter stays cold and evenly distributed, creating those perfect layers and pockets of air in your baked goods. Simply freeze the butter for about 15 minutes. Then use a box grater to shred it into the flour. Toss the grated butter lightly with the flour before mixing. This quick trick makes it easier to achieve a tender, flaky texture, giving your pastries a professional touch. Toast spices in a pan. To bring out the full flavor of your spices, toast them in a dry pan before adding them to your dishes. According to Grandma, heating the spices releases their essential oils, intensifying their aroma and taste. Simply add whole or ground spices to a hot, dry pan and stir them constantly for a minute or two until they become fragrant. Be careful not to burn them. Just a gentle toasting will do. Freeze mozzarella for grating. Grating mozzarella can be tricky due to its soft texture, but freezing it first makes the process much easier. Place the mozzarella in the freezer for about 30 minutes to firm it up. Once it's slightly hardened, it will grate smoothly without clumping or sticking. This hack is especially useful when you need finely grated cheese for pizzas, casseroles, or any dish that calls for a perfectly even cheese layer. It's a simple way to make your cooking more efficient and your dishes more delicious. Cook rice in coconut milk. For a rich, fragrant twist on plain rice, cook it in coconut milk instead of water. The coconut milk infuses the rice with a subtle sweetness and creamy texture, making it the perfect base for tropical dishes, curries, or even as a standalone side. Simply replace the water in your rice recipe with an equal amount of coconut milk. Cook the rice as usual and you'll have a flavorful, velvety dish that pairs beautifully with a variety of meals. Add ice cubes to burger patties. To keep your burgers juicy and flavorful, try adding an ice cube to each patty before grilling. The ice cube melts as the burger cooks, releasing moisture into the meat and preventing it from drying out. Simply place a small ice cube in the center of each patty and gently form the meat around it. Grill as usual and enjoy burgers that are extra moist and tender. This simple trick helps ensure that your homemade burgers are just as delicious and juicy as those from your favorite restaurant. Use mayo for breading. For crispy, flavorful breaded dishes, use mayonnaise instead of eggs. The mayo not only helps the breadcrumbs adhere better to the food, but it also adds a rich flavor and keeps the inside moist. Simply coat your chicken, fish, or vegetables with a thin layer of mayonnaise before pressing them into the breadcrumbs. Then cook as usual, whether you're frying, baking, or air frying. This hack creates a perfectly golden, crunchy crust while ensuring your dish stays juicy and delicious on the inside. Mix pickle juice in potato salad. Did you know that you can elevate your potato salad by mixing in a splash of pickle juice? The tangy, briny flavor of pickle juice adds a zesty kick that brightens up the entire dish. After boiling and cubing your potatoes, mix them with your usual ingredients like mayo, mustard, and herbs, and then stir in a few tablespoons of pickle juice. Adjust to taste, depending on how much zing you want. Coat with crushed cornflakes. For a crispy, crunchy coating on baked or fried foods, use crushed cornflakes instead of traditional breadcrumbs. Cornflakes add a unique texture and a slightly sweet flavor that pairs well with savory dishes. Simply crush the cornflakes in a bag or pulse them in a food processor until they reach your desired consistency. Coat your chicken, fish, or vegetables as you normally would, dipping them in flour and eggs first, then pressing them into the crushed cornflakes. Cook until golden and crispy for a delicious twist on your favorite breaded recipes. Freeze and grate ginger. To make grating ginger easier and more efficient, freeze it first. Fresh ginger can be tough to grate because of its fibrous texture, but freezing it hardens the root, allowing you to grate it smoothly. Simply place the ginger in the freezer for a couple of hours or until solid. When you're ready to use it, grate the frozen ginger directly into your dish. This method also helps preserve ginger longer, reducing waste, and ensures you always have fresh-tasting ginger on hand for cooking. Cover lasagna with foil. When baking lasagna, cover it with foil to ensure it cooks evenly and retains moisture. The foil traps steam, allowing the lasagna to bake through without drying out or overbrowning the top. Simply cover the lasagna tightly with aluminum foil before placing it in the oven. About 15 minutes before it's done, remove the foil to allow the top layer of cheese to melt and become golden. This technique results in a perfectly baked lasagna that's moist, cheesy, and thoroughly cooked, just like Grandma's. Use baking powder on chicken skin. For extra crispy chicken skin, sprinkle a bit of baking powder on it before cooking. The baking powder helps draw moisture out of the skin, allowing it to crisp up beautifully in the oven or on the grill. Simply mix a small amount of baking powder with your usual seasoning, then rub it evenly over the chicken skin. As it cooks, the baking powder reacts to create a deliciously crunchy texture, ensuring your chicken has the perfect balance of juicy meat and crispy skin. Stir mustard into mac and cheese. Did you know that you can add a tangy twist to your mac and cheese by stirring in a spoonful of mustard? The mustard's acidity cuts through the richness of the cheese, adding depth and a slight sharpness to the dish. After preparing your mac and cheese as usual, mix in a teaspoon or two of Dijon or yellow mustard, adjusting to taste. The result is a more flavorful, balanced dish that has a subtle kick, transforming your classic comfort food into something a bit more sophisticated and surprising. Soak onions in cold water. To mellow out the sharp bite of raw onions, Soak them in cold water before using them in your salads, sandwiches, or salsas. The cold water draws out the sulfur compounds that give onions their strong flavor, leaving them sweeter and more pleasant to eat. Simply slice or chop the onions, then place them in a bowl of cold water for about 10 to 15 minutes. Drain and pat them dry before adding to your dish. This simple trick makes raw onions more palatable, especially for those who prefer a milder taste. Grate Parmesan on popcorn. Upgrade your popcorn by grating fresh Parmesan cheese over it for a savory, umami-packed snack. The salty, nutty flavor of Parmesan adds a gourmet touch to your popcorn, making it a perfect treat for movie nights or gatherings. After popping your corn, while it's still warm, grate a generous amount of Parmesan directly onto the popcorn. Toss to evenly distribute the cheese and add a bit of black pepper or garlic powder for extra flavor. Spread mayo on fish. For moist and flavorful fish, spread a thin layer of mayonnaise on it before cooking. The mayo locks in moisture and helps the fish develop a beautiful golden crust while baking or grilling. Simply coat the fish lightly with mayonnaise, then season as desired and cook as usual. The mayonnaise keeps the fish tender and juicy, preventing it from drying out. This technique is especially useful for leaner fish varieties that tend to dry out quickly, ensuring your fish is perfectly cooked every time. Cook potatoes in heavy cream. For rich and indulgent potatoes, Grandma cooks them in heavy cream instead of water or broth. The cream infuses the potatoes with a luxurious texture and deep flavor, making them perfect for dishes like gratins or mashed potatoes. Simply slice or cube your potatoes and bake them in heavy cream until tender. The cream thickens as it cooks, coating the potatoes in a velvety sauce. Keep pastries fresh with silica. Did you know that you can keep your pastries fresh and crisp with a packet of silica gel? Silica gel absorbs moisture, preventing your pastries from becoming soggy or stale. After baking, place your pastries in an airtight container along with a silica packet, the kind you find in shoeboxes or bags of snacks. Just be sure that the silica packet is intact. Add anchovies to bolognese. For deeper, more complex flavor in your bolognese sauce, try adding a few anchovies. Anchovies dissolve into the sauce, imparting a subtle umami richness without overpowering the dish. As you saute the onions and garlic, add 2 or 3 pieces of anchovy and cook until they melt into the oil. Then proceed with the rest of your recipe. Use vodka in pie dough. For an extra flaky pie crust, replace some of the water in your dough with vodka. The vodka moistens the dough without activating the gluten, resulting in a crust that's tender and flaky rather than tough. Mix your pie dough as usual, but instead of using all water, substitute half with vodka. The alcohol evaporates during baking, leaving you with a perfectly textured crust. Mix baking soda with onions. Did you know that you can speed up the caramelization of onions by adding a pinch of baking soda? The baking soda raises the pH level of the onions, helping them break down and caramelize more quickly. Start by sautéing the onions as usual, then add a small pinch of baking soda and continue cooking. The onions will soften and brown faster, developing that rich, sweet flavor in less time. This hack is perfect when you're in a hurry, but still want to achieve deeply caramelized, flavorful onions for your dishes. Mix zucchini into cake batter. For a moist and tender cake, mix grated zucchini into the batter. Zucchini adds moisture without affecting the flavor, resulting in a cake that's soft and deliciously dense. Simply grate a cup or 2 of zucchini and fold it into your cake batter before baking. The zucchini blends seamlessly, adding extra moisture and a slight nutritional boost. This trick works especially well in chocolate or spice cakes, where the zucchini complements the other ingredients. Stir egg yolk into mashed potatoes. For extra creamy mashed potatoes with a rich, velvety texture, stir in an egg yolk. The yolk adds richness and helps bind the potatoes, making them smoother and more luxurious. After mashing your potatoes, quickly mix in an egg yolk while the potatoes are still hot, ensuring it's fully incorporated. The heat from the potatoes gently cooks the yolk, adding depth and a slight buttery flavor. Use baking soda in grits. To make your grits extra creamy and tender, add a pinch of baking soda while cooking. The baking soda helps soften the cornmeal, breaking it down more effectively and speeding up the cooking process. As you cook your grits, stir in a small pinch of baking soda along with your usual liquid. The result is a smoother, creamier texture with less cooking time. This little trick ensures your grits are perfectly cooked with a soft, velvety consistency that's hard to resist. Squeeze orange juice into banana bread. Did you know that adding a squeeze of fresh orange juice gives classic banana bread a bright, citrusy twist? The acidity of the orange juice balances the sweetness of the bananas and adds a subtle, tangy flavor that elevates the entire loaf. Simply add a few tablespoons of orange juice to your banana bread batter before baking. The result is a moist, flavorful bread with a hint of citrus that perfectly complements the rich banana flavor. Add fish sauce to onion soup. For a deeper, umami-rich flavor in your onion soup, try adding a splash of fish sauce. Fish sauce intensifies the savory notes of the soup without adding a fishy taste, making the onions taste even more robust and satisfying. As your onions are caramelizing, stir in a teaspoon or two of fish sauce and let it meld with the flavors. The fish sauce enhances the overall depth of the soup, giving it a richer and more complex profile that will impress anyone who tries it. Use baking soda in boiling potatoes. For perfectly fluffy mashed potatoes, add a pinch of baking soda to the water when boiling the potatoes. Baking soda raises the pH level of the water, helping to break down the potatoes' starches more efficiently, which makes them softer and easier to mash. As you boil the potatoes, sprinkle in a small amount of baking soda and cook as usual. The result is potatoes that are tender and mashed smoothly, resulting in a creamier, lighter texture. For more contents like this, click here to subscribe.